from 14 hours all the way up until 19 hours or 7 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday from 10 hours to 19 hours. Admission to the Expo is free. Again, the theme this year for this event is Investing in Vision 25 by 2025. Again, the program is just about to start. We are just minutes away. And it's going to be, I can't wait to hear all that is going to be offered by the various speakers during this morning's ceremony.
Chris and I will be handing you over to Mr. Alex Graham and Mrs. Michelle Abraham Ali, the Master and Mrs. of Ceremonies, who will take you through the official opening ceremony program here. And we will be joining you intermittently and as well, at intervals rather, as well as for the wrap up here at the National Cultural Center, followed by joining of Lyndon Davidson and our team at the Arthur Chung Conference Center as we bring you the ribbon cutting and live updates from the exhibition.
So, again, this event is going to be happening over the next 3 days, and you farmers and wherever you are, Mahika, Berbice, I think, somewhere on the highway, the delegates will be coming your way to visit and to witness firsthand your agricultural successes in whatever form that might be.
And for children of the farmers as well, we hope that they'll be bringing them along. A lot of their children are expected to take up the mantle and look after business. And so for the young people, we hope they will utilize this opportunity to learn about agriculture for those who are now whetting their appetite in the fields. And for those who are already into the fields, like our students from GSA and NARI, as well as our secondary school students, taking in information, collecting those pamphlets, and not just giving them the usual toss when we get back to the office or to school or to work, but perusing the information and learning about sustainable agriculture. I spoke to some representatives from Trinidad and Tobago at UPL yesterday, and they're a team that is quite happy about Guyana's low carbon deficit. And they aim as well to help Guyana and Guyanese, all farmers who have businesses and practice farming here, to get more into sustainable agriculture, to get more into the use of environmentally friendly pesticides and fungicides when dealing with their crops and their livestock.
Yes, and agriculture is not for everybody. So as a student, you don't have to wait until you graduate school to get involved in agriculture. If you have yard space, then the NARI is willing to afford you the opportunity of becoming involved in shade house farming. This is a new and innovative form of agriculture in which you are insulated against the vagaries of the wet. The President's Shade House Initiative, Youth Entrepreneurship and Innovation Project, will see the construction of some 500 shade houses. 52 of those shade houses have already been constructed at Monrepo, and nearly half of them have been planted. These will allow those youths who are involved in that project to benefit from the financial windfall that will come their way because of them being able to sell their produce. And this is basically about high value crops. We will now join Anadia on the balcony. She's going to be giving us a bird's eye view of what's happening inside the cultural center as we move closer to the start of the opening ceremony today. As I mentioned earlier, the dignitaries are coming down to make their way to the front of the cultural center, to the vantage point that will allow them to be able to access the stage quickly to make their presentations, those who will be making those presentations. And so it is that things are about to get underway here at the National Cultural Center for the start of the opening ceremony for the Expo, the Agriculture Forum and Expo, that is slated to begin at 1 o'clock today. Is it 1 o'clock? So we'll be bringing you coverage as the day progresses. And of course, bringing you updates from time to time. We see the Honourable Vice President, Dr. Barrett Jagdeo, backing us there. He's uh, engaging in conversation. And he has been also promoting the value and wealth generating potential of agriculture across the board. He hasn't been talking to the traditional stakeholders as such. He has been engaging across the board, especially with our youths, giving them the message, of course, that government is there to support their efforts in agriculture in whatever form that involvement may be. There is, of course, lots of opportunity outside of the traditional forms of agriculture.
The heads of government will appear on stage in this order. We will start with Montserrat, followed by Bahamas, Trinidad and Tobago, Dominica, Barbados, Antigua and Barbuda, the Secretary-General for CARICOM, Belize, and finally Guyana. Ladies and gentlemen, we begin by inviting firstly the Premier of Montserrat, Honourable Joseph Farrell. Next, the Deputy Prime Minister of Bahamas. And now the Deputy Prime Minister of Bahamas, Honourable Isaac Chester Cooper. Thank you for your patience, ladies and gentlemen. We are about to welcome into the auditorium the Deputy Prime Minister of Barbados, who will then be followed by the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. Coming in now is the Deputy Prime Minister of Bahamas, Honourable Isaac Chester Cooper. Thank you so much for your patience, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, I'll just invite you to take your seats as we continue with the procession of the heads of government in a moment.
Come.
Our live broadcast here on NCN. Thank you for staying with us on the network. For those listening on the Voice of Guyana or joining via our social media pages, we're also streaming live in the diaspora via our colleague sister stations across CARICOM heads of states. In addition to the heads of government, we have at the National Cultural Center in Guyana today, which are the Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, the Honourable Gaston Brown, Prime Minister of Barbados, Honourable Mia Motley, the Prime Minister of Belize, also Chairman of CARICOM, the Honourable John Antonio Briceño, Prime Minister of Dominica, the Honourable Roosevelt Skerritt, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Honourable Dr. Keith Rowley, and Deputy Prime Minister of the Bahamas, the Honourable Isaac Chester Cooper, as well as the Premier of Montserrat, the Honourable Joseph Farrell. We also have agriculture ministers representing Bahamas, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Belize, Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, Dominica, and Barbados. Other ministers from Suriname, the Minister of Labor; from Trinidad, the Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs; from Barbados, the Foreign Affairs Minister; from Antigua and Barbuda, Foreign Affairs and Trade Minister. A number of key stakeholders and regional agencies are participating. And these include the IDB Invest, the Inter-American Development Bank. We have the IFCWB, the International Financial Corporation, World Bank, the CDB, Central Development Bank, the FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization, ICA, the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture, which is the International Organization of the Americas, specializing in agriculture and rural well-being. The World Food Program, WFP, is the food assistance branch of the United Nations. It is the world's largest humanitarian organization focused on hunger and food security, and the largest provider of school meals as well. Global Affairs Canada, we have USAID, the United States Agency for International Development, RBL, Republic Bank Limited, and a number of key international and regional stakeholders as well. The agenda for today is the official ceremonial opening program here at the National Cultural Center, which is expected to culminate at noon. This will be followed by the heads of government heading over to the Arthur Chung Conference Center for the cutting of ribbon. and a subsequent tour of the exhibition. Later in the afternoon, we're expecting a development partners roundtable, which will be moderated by the CARICOM Assistant Secretary-General for Trade and Economic Integration, Mr. Joseph Cox. The expected participants and donors are IDB Invest, IFCWB, the CDB, the FAO, ECA, WFP, Global Affairs Canada, USAID, UK, and Republic Bank Limited, which we mentioned earlier. A musical interlude as we await the other arrivals here at the National Cultural Center. Continuing on some of the proceedings and expectations coming out of the Agri-Investment Forum and Expo. A welcome reception is expected to be hosted by His Excellency Dr. Mohamed Irfaan Ali.
Welcome the Deputy Prime Minister of Bahamas, Honourable Csme.
That's what we're thinking.
On we go with the procession of the heads of government. Please welcome Dr. the Honourable Keith Rowley, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. We now invite the Prime Minister of Dominica, Honourable Roosevelt Skerritt. Ladies and gentlemen, the Prime Minister of Barbados, Honourable Mia Amor Motley. Continuing with our procession of the heads of government, the Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, Honourable Gaston Brown. ladies and gentlemen, the Secretary-General of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, Her Excellency Dr. Carla Barnett. And now the Prime Minister of Belize and the Chairman of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, Honourable John Antonio Briceño. And now, His Excellency, the President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Dr. Mohamed Irfaan Ali.
You may have your seats, please. His Excellency Dr. Mohamed Irfaan Ali, President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, and Mrs. Arya Ali, First Lady, Honourable Brigadier Retired Mark Phillips, Prime Minister of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Honourable Justice Yonette Cummings Edwards, Chancellor of the Judiciary, Honourable Mansour Nadir, Speaker of the National Assembly, Honourable John Antonio Briceño, Prime Minister of Belize and Chairman of the Caribbean Community, Honourable Gaston Brown, Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, Honourable Mia Amor Motley QC, Prime Minister of Barbados, Honourable Roosevelt Skerritt, Prime Minister of Dominica, Dr. the Honourable Keith Rowley, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Honourable Isaac Chester Cooper, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism, Investments and Aviation of Bahamas, Honourable Joseph Farrell, Prime Minister of Montserrat, Her Excellency Dr. Carla Barnett, CBE, Secretary-General of the Caribbean Community, Honourable Dr. Jean Leon, President of the Caribbean Development Bank, Honourable Dr. Barrett Jagdeo, Vice President of Guyana, Honourable Zulfikar Mustafa, Chairman of the Special Ministerial Task Force on Food Production and Food Security of CARICOM, and Minister of Agriculture of Guyana, and other members of the Cabinet of Guyana, Honourable Ministers of Government of Member States of the Caribbean Community, members of the Diplomatic Corps, heads of regional and international organizations, including the FAO and ICA, students of the Guyana School of Agriculture and secondary schools in Guyana, members of the media, invitees all. A very good morning to you and welcome to the opening ceremony of the Agri-Investment Forum and Expo 2022. Having established the protocols I just did, I urge all speakers to reference them in the interest of time, given our distinguished but long list of speakers this morning. I do this knowing very well that many speakers will feel compelled to just follow their script or to embrace a more Caribbean type protocol, which includes a hail up or a shout out. I, for example, protocol notwithstanding, am struggling not to shout out Mia Motley and ask her if she brought any news for me from my Bajan family in St. Lucie. Talking about family, what we have today is really a family occasion. The Caribbean family is making a giant leap forward. The Judeo-Christian scriptures in Ecclesiastes states that there's a time for everything. For the Caribbean family, this is time for we catch we self. Throughout post-colonial history, the Caribbean has searched for a basis on which to build our mostly absent and sometimes fragile unity. But I think that today, we catch we self. Historically, we were brought here for the generation of agricultural wealth. Everything is in our favor: the atmosphere, the climate, the weather, and the people. And at our founding, we fed ourselves and we fed large swaths of Western Europe. It's time that we catch ourselves and do it again. Let's get our show on the road. I would now like to invite Her Excellency Dr. Carla Barnett, CBE, the Secretary-General of the Caribbean Community, to make welcoming remarks. Dr. Barnett.
Can I get this? I'm a little bit short, sir. Good morning, everyone. Protocol having been excellently set out for us. Can you bring this on a little bit? Thank you very much. Yes. Permit me to recognize Your Excellency, Dr. Mohamed Irfaan Ali, President of the Corporate Republic of Guyana, Honourable John Briceño, Prime Minister of Belize and Chairman of the Conference of Heads of Government of CARICOM, other heads of government, honourable ministers, members of cabinet, heads of regional institutions, international partners, members of the diplomatic corps, young people present, ladies and gentlemen. We have come together today to make another important step on our journey towards reducing the regional food import bill by 25% by 2025. This clear objective set by CARICOM heads of government requires rebooting of our agriculture sector to improve production and productivity and intra-regional trade. That is what investing in Vision 25 by 2025 is all about. For the Caribbean community, investing in Vision 25 by 2025 for greater food and nutrition security is not just a concept, but an urgent necessity. It is a statement of commitment by the heads of government, which demonstrates that the time for action is now. The path to the transformation of our regional food systems is in our hands. We undertake this task at a time of great global uncertainty. Not only has the COVID-19 pandemic exacted a significant toll on our economies, but we are now facing increased prices for food, fuel, and other basic goods due to the war in Ukraine and long-lasting supply chain disruptions. This adds to the stresses on the livelihoods of vulnerable people in our populations, increases the cost of doing business, and places additional pressures on government's budgets. With the ongoing removal of the restrictions that came with the pandemic, our economies are now poised to recover some of the ground lost during these trying times. This is a stressful time that is testing our resilience significantly. However, I believe that the spirit of cooperation, which we have always shown in times of adversity, will be the bedrock on which we overcome the current challenges. Our tourism sector, which has many linkages throughout our economies, has thankfully started to recover and will contribute to recovery, however uneven, across our countries. Agriculture, though, is what we are focusing on single-mindedly today. It has the potential to contribute significantly to economic recovery and resilience and drive socioeconomic development for the region. It is a major pillar upon which we can build to develop the human and economic capital which exists within our region. Today, we do not only stress the importance of increased investment in our food and agriculture sector if we are to meet our goal of greater food and nutrition security. We also demonstrate the willingness to do the level of planning and execution together with the full range of stakeholders that we need to be working with together to achieve the 25 by 2025 vision. From investors to farmers to technology providers to agriculture processors, agro-processors to consumers. With food prices now at their highest level since 2008, we are doing what we must do to seize this challenge as the opportunity to increase our own production for trade within regional markets and further afield. We are not underestimating the task at hand. Success will require increased support from our governments to alleviate the technological, logistical, and financing constraints faced by our producers. All this will require hard decisions to be made on the allocation of funding to agriculture and rural development, agricultural research, national transportation, those allied sectors and services that play important roles in bringing technological solutions to farming communities and bring production to market. Private investment is crucial for sustained growth of production and productivity in agriculture, as in any sector. This is why it is very heartening to see that so many investors have responded to the call to actively participate in this important event. There will be a lot of follow-up work to be done to ensure that there are concrete results flowing from this engagement, and we are here to do everything possible to assist. As we move to achieve Vision 25 by 2025, we must take deliberate steps to ensure that we recognize the role that women and youth already play as farmers, but we must fully also integrate our women and youth into our mainstream planning for agriculture development. I am therefore happy to note that there will be special sessions dedicated to addressing the concerns and aspirations of these two important groups of stakeholders. This forum and expo seeks to provide opportunities for investment, new project development, and technological advancement for the CARICOM agri-food system. The results and outcomes of this event must serve as a medium to enhance the production efficiency, livelihoods, and competitiveness of our hardworking farmers, agro-processors, and marketers who stand to benefit from the various technological, logistical, and financial solutions that are on offer. I take this opportunity to offer a special thank you to to His Excellency Mohamed Irfaan Ali, President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, for his dynamic leadership as lead head of government for agriculture. In the CARICOM Quasi Cabinet, and for having had the foresight not only to conceive of this investment forum and expo, but for having put dedicated resources and so much of his own energy into moving the entire program of regional agricultural revitalization forward. I also thank the government of Guyana, the Minister of Agriculture and his staff, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and his staff, and other ministries involved in hosting this event for putting in place the resources, logistical arrangements, and the planning necessary to deliver it in a relatively short time. It is my wish that the deliberations and interactions over the next few days will be highly productive, and that we would have moved the process of agricultural revitalization forward in a very meaningful way. Thank you, and I welcome everyone to this wonderful event.
Thank you, Dr. Barnett. Whenever I have the privilege of introducing our relatively young president, I could never resist the urge to say that Dr. Mohamed Irfaan Ali has the best opportunity in the history of Guyana to truly transform Guyana and now to influence change in the region as a whole. Dr. Ali, as I've said before, will certainly bring the dreams and aspirations of a generation like mine into reality in a relatively short time.
Thank you. Most gracious.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Mohamed Irfaan Ali.
Thank you very much. Please, please. Thank you very much. Please, please. My distinguished brothers and sisters, I won't say on stage, my distinguished brothers and sisters at the front line, because at the end of the day, it stops at the front line. Whether it's good or bad, whether it's challenging or an opportunity, it stops at the front line. And sometimes people see it as a stage gathering or the head table, as you will call it. But for us, it is the front line. And we are very humbled. I am very humbled by this opportunity to join with my dear brothers and sisters in not only launching and participating in this Agri-Investment Forum, but in sending a strong, singular message. That is, together we are ready to move forward in every aspect of the food production system in this region. From production to trade relations, to issues of markets, of barriers, every single issue, transport and logistics, every single issue is on the table, because we recognize if we cannot address these issues in a collective, multifaceted manner, then we will not be able to bring the long-term solutions that are so critically required. And that is why the private sector is the center of what we're doing. And the private sector here includes the farmers. But why are we here? By 2030, global use of cereal, wheat, corn, and soya is projected to increase to 3 million tons. Developing countries will account for almost 90% of this projected increase. 3/4 of the increase is attributed to feed consumption, with expanding livestock and poultry sectors. We're already seeing the pressure on the poultry sector and livestock because of feed input costs, and this is not expected to get better. Maize prices increased by 20% in the first quarter of 2022, exceeding its July 2012 record prices. Wheat prices are forecasted to increase by more than 40% by 2022, while consumption is expected to increase by 12%. The challenge for developing countries and us in CARICOM is not only the rise in prices, but the supply. As the vaccination war taught us, our position in the line is definitely not in front. Global production of mutton is expected to grow by 15%, whilst consumption is expected to grow to 18 million tons by 2030. Production will just be keeping a pace with consumption. The same can be said for dairy. The production growth by 2030 is projected at 1.7% per annum, while per capita consumption of dairy products is projected to increase by 1.2% per annum. As I speak to you this morning, there is a global shortage of baby formula all across territories. A global shortage of baby formula. Fertilizer has seen a 100% increase as of March 2022, while CARICOM has reported a 17.1% increase in transport expenses due to higher bunker prices and charter rates. Global fish production reached 179 million tons in 2018. Close to 50% of this production came from aquaculture. 50% of this came from aquaculture. The state of marine fisheries stock continues to decline, with a portion of fish stock being within biological sustainable levels, decreasing from 90% in 1974 to 65.8% in 2017. From 90% to 65.8%. The Caribbean region is located in the FAO fisheries area, termed the Western Central Atlantic. Only 61.4% of the assessed stock was fished within biologically sustainable levels in 2017. Catches peaked at 2.5 million metric tons in 1984 and declined to 1.2 million metric tons in 2014. This represents a 70% decline. If this trend continues, by 2030, less than 50% of marine stocks in the Caribbean will be fished sustainably. Management measures can arrest this, but climate change may accelerate this further downwards. It can therefore be easily assumed that marine stocks will continue to decline in the region, and any increase in the fisheries supply will come from either imports or aquaculture production and expansion. The choice is ours. The decision is therefore very simple. If we are to secure our production, we must take action and expand our aquaculture industry, as extra regional supplies will become more costly given the anticipated global decline. Extra regional supplies from aquaculture will be even more costly given the sharp rise in input costs such as feed. In 2020, we imported close to 100,000 metric tons of fish and fish products, amounting close to $340 million United States dollars. In Guyana and the rest of the region, the proposed path must be to improve management of the fisheries sector, to invest in aquaculture to supply farm freshwater and saltwater species to replace declining catches, to invest in aquaculture to produce fishery products to replace declining supply, to invest in agriculture to produce the components for aquaculture feed supply, to enable the feeding and production of farm fish and shrimp, to convert the waste and byproduct of capture fisheries to produce fish and meal for aquaculture feed, and to facilitate the supply of cheap power to enable the processing of soybean into soy meal. To facilitate strategic business development partnership between private sector, fish farmers, financial institutions, governments, and markets. In Guyana, we have undertaken several initiatives to achieve the 25 by 2025 target. Our current production and where we want to be. Poultry, we are currently producing 50,000 metric tons. We project to take this to 90,000 metric tons by 2025. Corn and soya, our present production is 4,300 metric tons. We project to increase this to 35,000 metric tons by 2025. We currently produce 324,000 metric tons of vegetables. We project to take this to 400,000 metric tons by 2025. Rice, our current production is 560 metric tons. We project to take this to 847,000 metric tons by 2025. To reduce our import bill, which is approximately 30 million United States dollars, we have entered into partnership and collaboration with our private sector, building consortium with our farmers and young people in the production of high-value crops, corn and soya, a special project with the young people to launch shade houses, a project we launched today with young people for shrimp farming, an investment of 651 million Guyana dollars has been allocated just for the corn and soya project, supporting the consortium in reaching this target. So we are matching the targets with the incentives and investment from the government. In aquaculture, we've invested more than $100 million in our brackish water shrimp production, which increased from 250,000 kilograms just a year ago to 1.2 million kilograms in 1 year. This tells a story that we have the ability and we have the know-how to do this once we embrace this path. We intend to invest another 150 million Guyana dollars to boost this production by more than 50%. We're investing 200 million Guyana dollars towards the development of a growth farm for Pacific white-legged shrimp. We're investing 40 million Guyana dollars to facilitate research and developing breed programs of indigenous, commercially viable freshwater species we are presently conducting field trials. Wheat, another important area for a global threat right now because of the war in Ukraine. We have embarked on a research to see whether there is a variety of wheat that can be planted in Guyana to meet our national needs and then to further expand to our regional needs. So far, we have seen tremendous success in the trials. In logistics, we're investing heavily in the infrastructure, farm-to-market roads, and other key infrastructure to support this sector. In partnership with our sister CARICOM state, Barbados, we will soon launch a food terminal in Barbados. We are expected our first 1,000 black belly sheep from Barbados to boost our production. We have earmarked one of our regions in Guyana as a livestock capital of Guyana and the region. The two countries have agreed to a shade house initiative, which will see the setting up of 50 shade houses in Barbados. The opportunities we are looking at in the future includes investing in marine cage technology in the riverine areas, starting with cages for tilapia and tambaqui, two different breed of fish that is becoming very popular here locally. In terms of fertilizer, we are looking at establishing a fertilizer production plant locally with the gas to energy project as an offshoot of the gas to energy project so that it can help us in terms of our input costs. And to encourage agro-processing, we intend to reduce the cost of energy by 50% by 2025. This, of course, will boost agro-processing and help us in this regard. We're also exploring ways to tap into the global industrial hemp market, which will reach US $12.01 billion by 2028. Guyana has laid our legislation for the hemp industry a few days ago in the National Assembly. I say now, the Force magazine of April 26, 2022, had perhaps one of the most frightening headlines for the region. The caption headline was, and I quote, "In the Caribbean, severe food insecurity has increased by 72% in the last year." The article cited a survey administered by the Caribbean Community in association with the World Food Programme and estimated that the prevalence of severe food insecurity has increased by 72% since the onset of the pandemic and by 44% compared to a year ago. The report estimated the number of food insecure persons in the region at 39%. 93% of the respondents in the survey reported higher prices for food, with 80% of our food consumption coming from extra-regional sources. I say all of this not to create a frightening position, but for us to understand the reality on which we reach today. And in understanding that reality, we, the leaders of CARICOM, through this Agri-Investment Forum, must send a strong message. We must correct the imbalance. We are and we must be prepared to achieve the target of 25 by 2025. We cannot lose this momentum. As a region, we cannot continue the importation of billions of dollars in products that we can produce right here locally. Vision 25 is looking at investment by countries to collectively reduce these imports by 25%. In achieving this, there are many challenges facing us, all of which we are working to resolve in partnership with the private sector in the areas of financing, logistics and transport, improving primary production, improving agri-processing, linking market to produce, and most importantly, create barriers that continue to haunt our efforts at working as a collective. As leaders, our overarching strategy should be aimed at streamlining procedures for exports and imports, a time-bound commitment to the removal of barriers, developing a pre-clearance system for the export of goods so as to reduce bureaucracy and spoilage, standardization of certification process, technical support in developing business proposals for farmers, incentivize agricultural lands for financial institutions, greater involvement of youth and women in the production chain, the privatization with government incentive of regional logistics and regional cargo infrastructure. Here in Guyana, we have set ourselves a target in the Shade House project and the livestock project of 20%, at least 20% of those farms to be owned by women. And we have a high percentage of youth participation, very high percentage of youth participation in the Shade House project. For a matter of fact, the company that was set up for this is owned completely by young people who are graduates from the University of Guyana and the Guyana School of Agriculture. There is much more that I would like to say, but we have many of my distinguished colleagues who will continue to elaborate on many of these issues. But I cannot leave this podium by thanking the hard-working staff of the Ministry of Agriculture, the Government of Guyana, CARICOM Secretariat, the Ministerial Task Force, for this outstanding job in bringing together this conference in less than 3 months with more than close to 600 registered delegates, more than 250 companies, of which more than 50% are international companies, more than 20 donor agencies and international financial institutions, regional financial institutions. So I ask you to give them a resounding round of applause for this great work. I end by saying to you, the time is now. The will is there. Together, we have no other choice but to create a win for CARICOM under these challenging food security times. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, President Ali. For the record, President Ali is the lead head of a government with responsibility for agriculture, agricultural diversification, food security, including the Regional Transformational Program and bananas. We now move to remarks that will be presented by the Chairman of the Caribbean Community, the Honourable John Antonio Briceño, Prime Minister of Belize.
Thank you very much, Your Excellencies, colleague heads of government, ministers of government, other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's good to be here in Guyana with President Ali and the wonderful Guyanese people who have opened up their city and hearts to all of us who have journeyed here for this very important event. The last time I was here, the president was your Vice President Jack Dale, a much better looking young man at that time. But good to see you again, Vice President. So it's been a long time, and you know how things have changed since that time. I think it was around 2005, 2006. And thank you, my dear friend, President Ali, for the excellent hospitality you have provided for all of us. I'm pleased to be here with all of you for this very important event. For sure, this is an opportune time for us to be discussing agriculture and to a greater extent, food security. Why? Because the Caribbean community continues to be affected by a number of global events, which can and indeed have a negative effect on our region's ability to ensure food security for our people. Some of these immediate effects include the COVID-19 pandemic, challenges resulting from the disruptions in the global supply chain, the high and increasing cost of agro inputs, most recent, the invasion of the Ukraine by Russia, and yes, climate change. Each of these alone would have been enough to seriously disrupt our fragile economies, let alone all of them taken together. But we need not despair. Instead, we must appreciate the fact that we have our dedicated CARICOM farmers and agro-processors who are knowledgeable enough and skilled enough to take advantage of the many opportunities that currently exist in our region to attain food security and enhanced economic activity. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this is the first time that CARICOM is organizing an agri-business investment forum and expo. And across the region, we welcome this initiative. Investing in Vision 25 by 2025 is the theme chosen for this event. It is more than a catchy slogan. It is, in effect, a plan which intends to see our region reduce its dependency on food imports and products by 25% over the next 3.5 years. To do this, we, the member states that make up CARICOM, will have to work with our agro-producers to foster accelerated and targeted investment in food production. During our last CARICOM heads of government meeting, we acknowledged that our agri-food sector accounts for more than 20% employment in the region. Like Belize, Guyana is blessed with abundant agricultural land and are people able and capable of tilling the fertile soil. This is why we are so excited about the leadership role President Ali is playing as the lead for agriculture and food security. Congratulations, President Ali. Wonderful job. Already we know that agriculture represents a clear opportunity for increased investment in agricultural production and agro-processing. It is therefore imperative that action is taken to maximize the benefits of present opportunities. See, in spite of the current global challenges, there are abundant opportunities in this sector that can result in enhancing our goal to ensure regional food security as well as increasing economic activity. As heads, we are convinced that President Ali's plans for agricultural development in the region are realistic, More so, they are imperative if we are to achieve food security for our CARICOM region. Also, 25% reduction in our region's food import bill by 2025 would significantly increase the production of homegrown products such as poultry, corn, soy, shrimp, cooking oils, juices and beverages, animal feed, fish, cattle, vegetables, sugar, and so many other food products. We have the potential to produce most of our food and in doing so, attain economic resilience and development. All member countries have excellent farmers and agro-producers who deserve their government's support in policy initiatives, financial and technical assistance to improve their competitive edge. As a CARICOM region, we must do better to remove those technical barriers to trade that most of us impose on each other. Let us instead use our efforts and energies to adopt policies to support the growth of the agro-productive sector, improve market facilitation, and develop intra-regional transportation. This CARICOM Agri-Investment Forum and Expo is bringing together investors from all over the region to facilitate business engagements and to develop investment opportunities. This then is our chance to facilitate and support our private sectors in making this a reality. In Belize, we have pledged a robust return to our agro-productive sector. Indeed, it was our commitment to agriculture that caused the Belizean economy to grow by 12% last year during the height of the pandemic when our tourism industry lost millions. Today, we in Belize are fully committed to our agricultural goal, which we term from farm to table with love. It means we grow what we eat and we eat what we grow. I am convinced that it is the right time for our region to invest in our agro-productive sector and the right time to start establishing strategic partnerships to realize the tremendous opportunities for growth, and in so doing will move us closer to ensuring regional food security. I assure that such an investment would bear good fruit and set our region on the right path to achieving meaningful human development for all our people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister Briceño, Prime Minister of Belize, and Chairman of the Caribbean Community. We're now going to have a bit of entertainment from the National Dance Company, and after the entertainment, my colleague Michelle Ibrahim Ali will take us through the remainder of the program. Michelle.
Bire mazak burut nogong, morowia kopmanoro tijit nikai.
We are one Guyana, a place of peace, a place of love. We are one Guyana, it's paradise. Oh, वक्त है बेशुम रहकर सकती हूँ सबब में लोगों से प्यार करने की
So amazed to live in such a beautiful country with love and people in harmony. I'm so amazed to live in such a beautiful country with love and people in harmony.
We are one Guyana, a place of peace, a place of love. We are one Guyana, it's paradise, it's our world.
Yeah, some of we born on the hills, some on the low coastal plains. Plenty rice and sugar cane. Same Guyanese blood in our vein. So make we burn out the hatred time be raising. Can't make that destroy. 6 races share the same space in this 83,000 square miles.
We are one Guyana, a place of peace, a place of love. We are one Guyana, it's paradise, it's our world.
Brother is a brother, no matter which religion is you. Could a Buddhist, Christian, Muslim, Hindu. Sister is a sister, real and true. One big part of culture brew.
And all of we together could really make this dream come true. Of a brighter Guyana for me and you. Ocean to mountains, hear this tune. Take it cool.
We are one Guyana, a place of peace, a place of love. We are one Guyana, it's paradise, it's our world. Love runs deep like a beautiful rivers for Guyana. Oh, when we stand as one, mighty like Mount Guyana, for Guyana, for Guyana.
Our life would be beautiful, just like Guyana.
She's blessed us with her own, just got to embrace her. They say, one and alone, yeah, lots of lots. Put her hands together, give her a standing ovation. This great nation, a little gem of this world, yeah. A place of peace, a place of love. We are one Guyana, it's paradise, it's our world.
We are one Guyana, a place of peace, a place of love. We are one Guyana, it's paradise, it's our
Indeed, we are one Guyana as we prepare to celebrate our 56th independence anniversary next week. This is the opening ceremony of Agri-Investment Forum and Expo under the theme Investing in Vision 25 by 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, Antigua and Barbuda is home to thousands of Guyanese, and they have contributed to that twin island nation in many ways, including culinary choices. This means that over the decades, the farmers and vendors, they've been supplying like Bora and Carigla and Callaloo. And so Antigua and Barbuda has been a major destination for Guyana's agricultural produce by air. To give remarks at the opening ceremony, it's now my pleasure to invite Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, Honourable Gaston Brown.
Thank you very much, Madam Co-Chair, I presume it's the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Antigua, and Barbuda. I acknowledge my dear friend, brother, the President, Dr. Irfaan Ali, other colleague heads, to include our chairman, John Brasino, of course, the ministers present here today, Secretary-General, other officials as established by the opening protocols, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I welcome this important and timely initiative by President Irfaan Ali to focus attention on agriculture in the region, particularly in the context of food security and nutrition. The urgent achievement of food security is an imperative to avoid future catastrophic consequences. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, if CARICOM is to succeed with attaining regional food security and achieve a high standard of agri-food production, the infrastructure must be supported by an inclusive development policy to include continuous direct investment and a modernized legal framework which accounts for the required standards and quality of our products. Equally important to the sector's sustainability is the implementation of innovative actions and the adoption of modern agricultural techniques, including the use of information communication technologies, ICTs, to effectively manage the sector in achieving sustained production of good quality products. The consequential effects of COVID and the war on Ukraine have demonstrated in stark terms the interconnectivity of our globalized world. None of our countries has escaped the impact of increased petroleum prices, the shortage of fertilizer, and the higher prices for food products occasioned by constraints on supply. I draw attention to the worrying observation by the World Bank that the price of fertilizers has increased by as much as 178% between March 2021 and March 2022. The price of urea, one of the most important and widely used fertilizers, has now reached an all-time high. Shortages of food products around the world have resulted in the highest rate of inflation for over 4 decades. Colleagues, the high prices are affecting the poor and the most vulnerable in our societies, and we must act urgently to protect them. In short, the world is facing a crisis in food production and supply that has exponentially increased the cost of food to every nation, including ours in the Caribbean community, with implications for political stability and national security. This situation exposes our vulnerabilities more profoundly, especially the food insecurity of our region. The rapid escalation in the price for fertilizer should be a strong signal to us as a region of the importance of our countries acting together to invest in machinery to produce fertilizer. And I would have listened carefully to the distinguished president of Guyana about establishing your own facility to produce fertilizer. But I believe that this is an area for regional collaboration. The present situation may be an opportunity for Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago to explore the possibility of utilizing their gas capacity to strengthen and expand Trinidad's existing facility so as to produce fertilizer to satisfy the region's needs and to end our vulnerability to external vagaries. I hope this idea might be pursued, including by the two governments, while inviting all CARICOM governments to invest in the enterprise as owners, making it a truly regional undertaking. Our region ought not to continue to be susceptible to external factors for fertilizer if we have the capacity to cure it, and we certainly do. CARICOM must quickly enhance agricultural production capacities to levels that can insulate the region from external shocks and to ensure food sovereignty, food security, and adequate nutrition. Mr. Chairman, each of our countries come from different conditions to the point of recognizing the crucial importance of producing and supplying food within our region. If we could achieve a high level of food production and supply within the region, we would not only significantly decrease the dependence of many of our countries on food importation from outside the region, but we could also reduce costs. But achieving food sufficiency on the basis of individual country production will not be possible for all countries. That is the reality. For example, my own country, Antigua and Barbuda, is subject to long periods of droughts, such as the period we are now enduring. This arid condition is not conducive to sustained and competitive agricultural production in traditional ways. To maintain and increase water supply for domestic consumption and commercial operations, including agricultural production, we are compelled to invest in very expensive reverse osmosis plants. This makes water very costly, escalating the cost of agricultural production and rendering the price of our products uncompetitive and, in any event, insufficient for our needs. Nonetheless, we recognize the importance of developing and maintaining some level of agricultural production to reduce our import dependency, reduce foreign exchange leakage, and to produce more nutritious foods in tackling the escalating NCD crisis. To do so, we have been investing in water production and in new technologies such as hydroponics, as well as in training and retraining our farming community in new modern farming techniques. We also have to find a means of providing lines of credit, crop insurance, and commitments to purchase and distribute the produce of small farmers. And I know too that President Ali would have done some work in this area, and that at least there's one regional institution so far that would have pledged about $100 million in funding. And again, I want to take this opportunity to commend President Ali for his leadership. We thank you. Now, there is the disheartening occurrence of predial larceny. This is a problem in my country about which my government will have to consider introducing very harsh penalties. But the problem is not in Antigua and Barbuda alone. In 2010, the estimated direct losses from predial larceny in the region amounted to US $321 million. It was described as the most discouraging aspect of agriculture. It would be useful to all our countries if there was a regional approach to matters such as lines of credit, crop insurance, predial larceny, and machinery to purchase the produce of small farmers by contract. Perhaps arising from the discussions at this meeting, there may come concrete plans to advance these considerations. Mr. Chairman, as long ago as 2005, CARICOM governments agreed on a framework for the repositioning of Caribbean agriculture. That plan came to be known as the Jagdio Initiative after Barra Jagdio, the then president of Guyana, who spearheaded it. When the Jagdio Initiative was adopted in 2005, the region's food import bill was $1.8 billion. At the end of last year, 2021, the food import bill had quadrupled to more than $5 billion United States dollars. I venture to estimate that the present global circumstances would have seen an increase in the import bill, possibly in the region of about $6 billion and rising. It is also important to note that a joint survey by the CARICOM Secretariat and World Food Program estimated severe food insecurity in the Caribbean to have increased by 72% since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. Over the last few weeks, this figure evidently would have dramatically worsened. Let me recall that our region failed to implement the 2005 JAG-U initiative, and over the last 17 years, we have suffered for inaction. Let us all learn from this experience. Contributing to the failure were several factors, and I wish to highlight just three of them in the interest of time. One was poor coordination of the work programs of the many agencies concerned with agricultural production in the region. The second was limited access to commercially available finance because of inadequacy of bankable projects. And the third, and most important, was and remains inadequate intra-regional transport. And I will address that matter briefly. Unfortunately, it is easier to ship commodities from Miami than within our region. Mr. Chairman, the original JAG-U initiative and the refinements since introduced by President Ali represent a good starting point for action arising from this meeting. We need to move from rhetoric to firm decisions for the advancement of the region's agricultural sector in achieving food sovereignty and food security. We must also resolve to act urgently in our own interests, including by honoring the terms of the CARICOM Treaty and not permitting breaches of it by, let's say, countries that from time to time impose these illegal non-tariff barriers on goods, particularly products from other member states. And based on the claps, I know you know exactly which countries I'm speaking about. My dear friends, I end my remarks with the last observation. A regional approach is necessary to increase food production in all of our territories, but it is not sufficient to produce more food if we fail to establish the means to transport and distribute it. Let us not fool ourselves. If we do not have adequate transportation, then all of our efforts will be in vain. In this regard, reliable regional transportation by air and by sea is imperative and urgently requires attention. There's a tendency in this region in which we have some free riders. Everyone wants transportation, but no one wants to pay for it. We have to implement a program of shared benefit and shared burden. So I implore our colleagues to address this very important issue of transportation urgently. Mr. Chairman, all these circumstances come in as many of our economies are still struggling to emerge from the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic amid extremely high oil prices pose a very serious challenge to our region. Therefore, there is every reason why together our countries must view food insecurity as a grave threat to our well-being and declare war on it. Colleagues, it is a truism that no nation, no integrated region or integration region can be great if it cannot feed itself. I therefore implore us to act now to address our food insecurity and to make our region great. I thank you. Much love and blessings.
Thank you, Prime Minister Brown. Investing in Vision 25 by 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, Guyana and Barbados, we have shared a deep history beyond the colonial reason for us being here. And as Alex mentioned, thousands of Guyanese, we share the same DNA with thousands of Barbados because many Barbadians at one stage in our history had come to work in the sugar industry. And so we share a common heritage, we share a common destiny to increase and improve the quality of our food production. We will now hear remarks on pursuing CSME and removing barriers to enhance agri-trade within the region from the Honourable Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Amor Motley.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Your Excellency, my brother, the President of Guyana, distinguished heads of government, distinguished members of Cabinet of Guyana and the rest wider Caribbean, leaders of business and international organizations, above all else, the students and young people of Guyana, because we're doing this for you. Good morning, all. We are here together at a most critical time in our history. As of May 17th, 2022, export restrictions were put in place on palm oil in Indonesia. Increased export restrictions have been imposed by Russia on sunflower seeds, sunflower oil, and wheat. Ukraine has banned exports of wheat and oats. Argentina has extended export restrictions on beef products until 2023. India and Kazakhstan, most recently, have restricted exports of wheat. It is expected that there will be more restrictions as we go on by governments to safeguard their food supply in the face of soaring inflation. Large shipments of grain are still delayed in the Ukraine port, blockaded by the war. My friends, what more do we need? There is still the picture that speaks 1,000 words of the thousands of ships outside the port of Shanghai, waiting to be able to move supplies globally, in and out. Those supply chain disruptions didn't start this year. They started during the course of the pandemic. They have simply become exacerbated in the last 2 to 3 months. We are already familiar with them because we had the export restrictions on us with PPE and ventilators at the beginning. And we understood then in a very real way, as you heard from President Ali this morning, that we are simply not large enough to be seen and not loud enough to be dealt with, neither individually or regrettably collectively. My friends, we are at that moment in time where it is up to us to stand up to the challenge or to recognize that the consequences of it will indeed be difficult and potentially devastating for our people. And while we await the global initiatives to be announced by the UN Secretary-General and the Global Crisis Response Team that he has established on food, energy, and financing, with the expectation that what the world faces will be more challenging than what we faced in 2008 to 2010, we have a responsibility to take preemptive action in this region to protect our people. And that is why all of us meet in Georgetown today against this backdrop. A crisis like no other is before us. And may I say that when we first set the target, indeed, I remember like yesterday, when the regional ministers of agriculture met in Barbados in September 2018, and we issued the challenge, I issued then and said, why are we not resuscitating the Jagdeo initiative? And in so doing, why can't we set ourselves a simple target of reducing food imports regionally by 25% by 2025. Little did we know how apt that challenge would be for this moment in time. Little did we realize that rather than just being 25, President Ali, it might well have to be 50 by 2025, given what we have just said. This crisis, as I said, deepens like no other. and we don't have the luxury to ignore it. When the heads of government met to establish the single market and single economy in 1989 in Grenada, we had very clear ambitions. And we have now to ensure that this is not a long-awaited dream of men and women meeting in Grenada, but that this can become the reality of our people. And therefore, this morning, very briefly, I want to speak to food security in the context of the CSME. Because, as you heard from my brother, Prime Minister of Antigua, without us addressing certain aspects of it, it would become a futile effort. The entire Caribbean region also has to be viewed not just as the population of CARICOM of 15 million or so, or 18 million, sorry, with 18 million, but with the visitors that we receive on an annual basis, whose responsibility it is ours to feed. And when we look at that, we are then looking at a base of over 32 million people. But it then requires us to have a different mindset, because we bring people to this region and we want to feed them what they eat from where they come, rather than understanding that it is our responsibility to be unique and different, and it is our responsibility to give them a flavor that might entice them to return. Mr. President, I single out Guyana because, in a very real sense, your journey through the 70s and 80s and 90s and 2000s have indigenized so much of what you eat here that the rest of us in this region would do well to follow the example, to change our dietary habits and to change our tastes, because it is not only good economics, it is better for each and every one of us individually as we fight the dreaded spectacle of chronic NCDs. But it isn't only a government decision. We need to bring on our distributors and retail trade. We need to bring on our restaurateurs and our hoteliers. The notion that you come to the Caribbean and you drink juice out of a tin made in some other part of the world is as offensive as it can possibly be to an independent Caribbean that I could think of. Where is the fresh juice from Guyana or from Dominica or from St. Vincent? Where is it? Where are the fresh herbs? It is true that they're herbs and herbs. We may well have done better with one than the other, even if not intentionally. My friends, there has to be a change in mindset. And I'm not sure, President Ali or Vice President Jagdeo, whether it was in this building that the CARICOM heads of government met in 1986. Perhaps I should ask Sir Ronald. I'm not sure if it was in this building. But if it was not in this building, it is certainly in this town. When Errol Barrow stood here and reminded us that irrespective of whatever governments do, we as Caribbean people, as you heard just now in the introduction of Antigua, in the introduction of Barbados, are family. And that those family bonds are pursued on a daily basis without reference to the rest of the bureaucratic obstacles or governmental intransigence and lethargy. We have a responsibility now to change mindsets and to change policies. Our SPS regime, sanitary and phytosanitary regime, must be modernized to ensure that safe foods can enter, circulate, and exit the single economic space efficiently. And I will deal with it from our perspective because I'm not pointing fingers at anyone. In Barbados, we have a responsibility also to be more agile with respect to those things that we do to allow goods into our own territory from the region, as we will expect every other territory in the Caribbean community so to do. Because if we don't make the steps now to remove the barriers, God knows how we can create the productive base that President Ali has so masterfully drafted for us in terms of the plans to expand productivity and to expand production. Similarly, we have to ensure that our ports of entry, as you heard from Prime Minister Brown, are priority areas of investment to facilitate the movement of cargo and people. And in this moment when maritime transport is at its greatest challenge, we have to recognize that the bridge to resuscitating Caribbean tourism air transport may well be having regional air cargo moving to help offset the investment to move our people. We may need to look at different planes, and we may need to look at more regular traffic. And that is why the example shown to us in Belize when we went to the last heads of government with the use of the grand caravans, with the regularity of movement, may well be the solution for us, rather than these large aircrafts that move once or twice a day. Our people need regular, affordable access to air transport, and not just simply on a periodic basis. In addition, my friends, we also have to ensure that the population and the reality of our population is taken into account. Our population in this region is aging. We have the profile of a developed country, all of us. And we are also underpopulated, and there's perhaps no country more underpopulated than you here in Guyana, in the Caribbean region. Belize has the size of Israel, but has a population of just about 400,000 as compared to Israel's 8 million. Suriname is bigger than the Netherlands, but the Netherlands boasts 17 million and Suriname has 580,000 people. We have, as a region, to establish a regional population commission to determine whether our anemic economic growth has not been as a result of a lack of population as much as other barriers that we continue to address on a continual basis. But that aging population is best found and represented where? Among the agricultural sector. That is where, regrettably, we have a problem. That a lot of the people working in agriculture in the Caribbean are elderly and older people. And we also know, as you heard from the Secretary-General this morning, have also a high percentage of women who work in this sector. I want to share just something, and please allow me to do so, because I need to make a call for decent work for women and labor in agriculture in particular. We are not going to attract new people into agriculture if the conditions of work are not decent. And that is why I want to commend my own Minister of Agriculture, who is here in Darware, for working with the Barbados Workers Union, for ensuring that after centuries of indignity and exploitation, we now have in our larger plantations and farms, mobile facilities with sanitary and kitchen facilities for our women who are working in the fields so that they do not have to suffer the indignity that has been theirs for centuries. But we can't build a future agricultural sector with an aging population. And that is why I'm so heartened to welcome this morning in particular the students that you have brought here, President Ali, because it is up to you with the infusion of technology and the infusion of capital to turn the experience of agriculture from that historic, awful scar that has been characterized with the modern settlement of the Caribbean to that wonderful opportunity to meet the world where the world needs us to meet us, not just to feed our own people, but to become the breadbasket of the Americas with what we produce and export to the Americas. And I trust and pray that in our ongoing discussions in the Americas, as we will soon have, that we put on the table not just climate and energy security, but food security. My friends, I know that my brother, Prime Minister Skerritt, will speak to the farmers and labor issues because he is the lead Prime Minister and has worked wonders in this area of movement of people over the course of his tenure as Prime Minister of Dominica and lead Prime Minister on this area. But we have to address it because without it, those wonderful lofty goals as expressed by President Ali will remain on paper. We need now equally to accelerate our advocacy to remove the international trade barriers that have so strangled us. We cannot expect our farmers to produce for us only in a crisis. They have to be able to produce all year round. And we face the hypocrisy of a world that continues to allow the most powerful countries to subsidize domestic agriculture while the rest of us have to literally play by rules that do not allow us to support our farmers when they most need the support. We are not arrogant people. People ask me, why did Barbados go forward to host UNCTAD? It's not because we had deep pockets and the gods conspired with us to allow us to do it virtually and save money anyhow. But we did it because, as Shirley Chisholm told us, if we don't bring a folding chair to the table, we will not change how people view and deal with us. We have been arguing for over 30 years for special and differential treatment because we have no capacity to distort global trade in goods or services. And we have been unsuccessful in its movement. I reflected in the presidential lecture series at the WTO last month, that in Barbados's case, our domestic production in agriculture dropped by 20% since the establishment of the World Trade Organization and by 34% in manufacturing since the establishment of the WTO. We cannot operate in these circumstances. And our desire, therefore, to host UNCTAD is to be able to carry the voice that we need policy space to protect our domestic food production and our regional food production. And I trust and pray that we will move with greater energy on these issues. But more importantly, that the example of the disruption of the global supply chain and the combination of the climate crisis that could take out Miami for 3, 4, 6 weeks, and hence no ship coming with food from Miami, what happens? That those two examples now, hopefully, will allow us to have a different response when we argue once again for special and differential treatment, especially for small island developing states and landlocked countries. My friends, the bottom line is, what do we need to move forward and to increase production? What do we need? Production of safe food is critical. And we have, as we do so, to recognize that the international legislative or the international policy obligations on us for export ought to be adopted equally for regional trade. We can't be satisfying traceability and international certification outside of this region, but not within the region. And within the context of CSME, I hope that we will be able to do it. But more importantly, we also have to recognize that we need to address what are the inputs that we put in the growing of our food. I chair the One Health Global Initiative, and antimicrobial resistance is responsible now for the 3rd largest number of deaths globally, either associated or attributable deaths after heart attacks and strokes. We cannot continue to use the kind of chemicals that will harm our people simply by making them incapable of fighting off the super viruses that are now killing us across the world. What do we also need? We need clean planting material. We need affordable inputs. We need to resolve the water issues driven by the groundwater crisis and the droughts as a result of climate. We need to be able to ensure that we have proper insurance for our farmers. We need to make sure that we can update and to put in place the technical support in the fields. We need to build our research capability. We need to adopt the suitable technology, as I said, for our young people to enhance productivity and competitiveness. We need to have effective storage and agro-processing so that we remove the word glut from our vocabulary. And we need to address, as Prime Minister Brown said, the vexatious issue of pre-deal larceny through technology and more effective enforcement. My friends, the goods must reach the consumers in a way that is safe and affordable. And it is up to us, working with farmers, retailers, distributors, transport providers, to bring this puzzle together. And President Ali, I want to salute you, Minister Mustafa in particular, and your team for ensuring that the Jagdeo initiative does not become a historic relic, but becomes something which all of us in the Caribbean need to breathe life to our people and our population. To do what you have done in the last 18 months is nothing short of phenomenal. And let me say, my friends, that we have suspected it for some time, but we now know it. Food and water are as important or more important than oil. As I close, let me wish you and the people of Guyana a happy 56th independence. We became independent countries in the same year, you in May and us in November. And therefore, when we talk about cooperation, it isn't only from the days of Barbadians coming here in the post-emancipation period to help you establish your sugar factories or to help teach or to help do other things within the administration of Guyana, but it was with you coming back also to establish modern industry in Barbados in the 1950s and 60s. And on the day after your independence, we herald that cooperation formally again, with you coming next Friday in Barbados to open our own major agricultural exhibition, AgroFest, to ensure that we don't only talk the talk, but we walk the walk. The Guyana-Barbados Food Terminal, the cooperation in black belly sheep, and the cooperation in aquaculture, the cooperation in shade houses. We can only get to the point of satisfying the increased food production by the small steps like these, country by country, working together. And on behalf of my own people, I thank you for being a willing partner for us. Colleagues, all, the moment has arrived, and we have prepared for such a time as this. Let us now to the charge, do the work, and make sure that Caribbean people don't only feed themselves, but we also contribute to the feeding of the Americas. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Prime Minister, for your incredible energy, your drive, your commitment, not just to Barbados, but to the entire region. The moment has come. Can we do it? We absolutely can. As we continue, we head up to the noon hour. Our next speaker has a thriving banana industry in his country, but we'll not be hearing about that specifically. We'll hear more about transport and marketing integration as we now invite Prime Minister of Dominica, Honourable Roosevelt Skerritt.
Thank you very much. Let me recognize my friend and colleague, President Ali, and my colleagues, especially our chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, friends all, good afternoon. I wanted to allow one of my delegation members to speak on my behalf because I brought with me two farmers from my country as part of my delegation. One is a very strong supporter of mine and one did not vote me in the last election. But they're two very productive farmers. And I want to say to us that we have the capacity and the ability to supply ourselves within the region
with a lot of what we need to consume. And some of my colleagues would have alluded to some of the challenges that we face. The reality is, I can't understand why is it that I'm able to export avocados to Europe and North America, but I cannot export it to some Caribbean countries. And I can't understand how we can export ginger, which is such an high demand to help fight COVID-19, but we cannot supply the region. But we can send it out to Europe and out to North America. So the reality is, the actions and the decisions to help transform agriculture and give farmers that comfort and that confidence that they so need is within our hands. And I think we need to, as part of the process of advancing this very lofty and welcome initiative led by the President of Guyana, of which I am in total and absolute support of, I think we need to itemize the actions we need to take and take them. And take them. Because if we're to allow CARICOM, our people, our ordinary folks to feel that they're part of an integration process, especially our farmers and fisher folk, they must be able to benefit from that process. And the reality is, in my country, we can supply the region with a wide variety of crops at affordable prices, and to safeguard the health of the region. And it's all of this extra regional imports of agricultural produce with also chemicals in it. That's what causing a lot of health problems we have in the region today. CNCDs, diabetes and hypertension. We're scared of COVID-19. We should be really scared in the Caribbean of diabetes and hypertension. And then we have a high incidence of obesity in the region caused by what we eat. So this initiative is not only about economics, it's also about the well-being, the welfare of every citizen in the Caribbean region. We as governments, we speak about helping farmers. But in the process of attracting jobs in the tourism industry, we give concessions to these hotels to import food from outside the region. Can we not address this and say, let us first buy from your country, and that which you can't find from your country, you can find it from a brother or sisterly country within CARICOM? And so we have to remove all of these fictitious impositions that we put in. All hide on the phytosanitary conditions and this and that. These are all just unnecessary actions that we take. And so I speak here on behalf of the farmers. And we talk about access to farm labor. It's difficult for farm labor to move within the region, but we're sending farm workers to Canada every year. And so we're helping the agriculture, we're helping the economy, but within our region, we cannot help each other by allowing farm workers to move freely within our region. And so I'm really here to speak on behalf of the farmers. I'm a farmer myself. I am completely self-sufficient. I eat fruits every day, and every one of them come from my farm, grown by me. And so I speak here, my Prime Minister, St. Vincent's out there, and St. Lucia and Grenada, the Windward Islands, we have the capacity to supply a significant amount of food to the region. And we need to work together. We need to allow our produce to come in freely on unfettered manner, and allow the ordinary folks within the Caribbean to feel for the first time the true benefits of the integration. We have made a lot of good things happen within CARICOM. But the ordinary folks, the farmers, the fishermen, this would help our economy so dramatically. And this is why I'm here, President Ali, in Guyana, to register Dominica's firm support for this initiative. And if we miss this opportunity, as we did with the JAGRI initiative, and JAGRI worked on this diligently for many years, and we failed to take the action. This has been precipitated, this current program has been precipitated by the challenges brought on by COVID-19 and the supply of food. So let us not let this opportunity that has been brought up by us by a crisis to elude us. We have our students here. I am very concerned about the future where food security is concerned if we do not concretize the recommendations in this 25 by 2025 and beyond initiative. And we as current leaders, I believe there is a political will to allow it to happen. The private sector must come on board and not display, a rush to profits and believing that you can get cheaper produce from outside in larger quantities and you flood the markets. No, let us allow everybody to survive within our Caribbean space. And the farmers need that. We can supply you one. These 2 farmers alone can supply you for a significant amount of supply within the region. And then if you add me to the mix, you can understand, And we have Farmer Brown from Antigua. So I want to thank you. I want to commend the leadership of Guyana. I remember back in the 80s, we had a small spar between Eugenia Charles and Forbes Burnham over rice and over soaps. And Eugenia Charles told Forbes Burnham, you could baby for your rice and I'll baby for my soap, back in the days. But we have excellent relations with the leadership of Guyana and the people of Guyana, and we look forward to working with you, President Ali, to realizing this tremendous effort that you put into one of the most important sectors in our Caribbean, agriculture and food production. And so let us all join forces. Let us all join forces to make this happen. It's not going to happen only because of us. And it's not going to happen by us only as political leaders in this country or these islands. Every one of us, or the consumers, we cannot, as consumers, talk about agriculture, what government is doing for agriculture, and then we take our trolleys and we go to the supermarkets and we look for the foreign produce. Now we believe that the beef coming from elsewhere is not comparable to the beef coming from Guyana. So if each of us here and those who are listening to us, the millions who are listening to us in the Caribbean region, were to make a decision today that we're supporting Caribbean produce, we will solve a problem. We will solve a problem. Notwithstanding, and then you would put political pressure on these leaders to remove all the barriers that they have in your countries. Because you would be saying to them, I do not want any ginger coming from a country that doesn't have land. I want Dominica ginger. And let us have it recognized on the supermarket shelves. Let's pass regulations to force the supermarkets to put CARICOM produce. In our government, we have a very firm policy. We support Caribbean goods first and foremost. We don't buy any rice but the rice that comes from Guyana, or a state-owned entity that imports rice. We don't buy any sugar except the sugar that comes from Guyana. That's our policy. We don't buy any flour except the flour that comes from St. Vincent and Grenadines. Even if sometimes the price is high. We are cushioned because we understand if we can keep the dollars in the Caribbean region, it's going to benefit Dominica eventually. And if each of us adopt that attitude, then our presence here in Guyana going forward would be a great success. Thank you very much, and God bless all of us.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, Guyana is on the cover of the April 2022 edition of the National Geographic magazine. I hope you had a chance to see it. It features an expedition through our dense and pristine jungle to the mighty Roraima. Prime Minister Rowley visited our Kaichur National Park yesterday. We hope that you all have an opportunity to do so. Of course, that's the largest single-drop waterfall in the world based on the volume of water. And Prime Minister looks refreshed and reinvigorated and ready to invest in Vision 25 by 2025. Please welcome the Honourable Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. the Honourable Keith Rowley.
Thank you very much for your exposure. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, all Caribbean people, permit me the moment to acknowledge our host, President Irfaan Ali, Vice President Barrett Jagdeo, and the executive members of the Guyanese administration and all the people of Guyana. I thank you very much for the invitation to participate in what I consider to be a seminal event. I also would like to claim the role of elder statesman in the front line, not on the stage, in the front line, because I just discovered that I've been around longer than everybody else on the stage. And that means I've seen this before, I've heard it before, and I don't want to hear it again. We know what to do. Question is, are we prepared to do it? I'm here on this occasion for two reasons among going to Kaichur. First reason I'm here is to see whether it is possible to revitalize the hope and the energy that was held out to us by the Jagdeo documents, and to also to provide total support for the initiative and the enthusiasm of President Irfaan Ali in trying to get us to do what we know we have to do. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm also here to remind you that there was something called the St. Anne's Initiative. And that was a meeting in St. Anne's in Trinidad, CARICOM meeting, very much like this in Trinidad, sponsored by, supported by CARICOM, sponsored by the government of Trinidad and Tobago, for one reason, and that reason was to refocus the people of the region to the valuable, or I should say invaluable role that the single market and economy should and have to play if we are to be successful in our initiatives. Today I want to say, unless we accept CARICOM as a proper single market and economy, a lot of these objectives will not be realized. We cannot, as a small economy, fighting against the winds that are buffeting us as they did so poignantly during COVID-19 worst days, to still be operating on the basis you versus me and mine versus yours. On the other hand, if the St. Anne's Initiative, which came into being because at the time when I joined the CARICOM heads of government, the unthinkable was happening. We had taken the single market and economy off the agenda list of CARICOM. At the initiative of Trinidad and Tobago, it was put back on the agenda. And that St. Anne's meeting was to drive us along the line to actually get something done. Agree to do it. That initiative is in place. It's on paper. It's among the leaders. We're meeting here today, not after, But during a pandemic, because only this morning I was monitoring the response from countries and looking at the data of the continued infection at high levels of people responding to the virus. Thank God, the hospitalization is not rising, but the infection levels are rising again. One of the things that I think we've all agreed on, and the experts have told us that, is that what we have experienced in COVID-19 is likely to happen again and to happen more frequently. And for those of us who in the worst days of COVID-19 heard our private sector saying to us as government that they could not place an order for a supply of food, and our Ministry of Health could not administer a vaccine even though we had the money to buy it because we could not buy a vaccine. We have been warned. We have been warned. So when we come here now in these salubrious environment, externally and internally in this building, let us remember that amongst us, there will be responses that are saying, we prefer to protect the status quo of the narrow existing interest as against doing what has to be done to broaden it for the interest of the wider CARICOM people. Let's understand that. So I'm asked to speak, if we had time to speak on all these things, on investments and marketing, for the simple reason that I've been saying that unless we get the appropriate investments, the scale at which we are required to perform will not be achieved. Because the fundamental principle of economics, the economies of scale, will always apply to us. And therefore, Guyana's role in giving CARICOM the opportunity to produce on the scale at which we can produce, to be a participant in feeding ourselves, is important. And that's why I'm here to support this Guyanese initiative, driven by the works of Vice President and President of Guyana as integral leaders in CARICOM. Because while we want to protect our peasant agriculture, while we want to ensure that the current interests are not trampled upon, we must do what has to be done to increase production. But that increase in production is going to do something. It's going to disturb the status quo of the current arrangements. And that is status quo, if it is not on board and in board, is going to dominate the conversation of protection, and we will not get it done. Why do you think President Skerrit is asking you today that he could sell avocado to Europe, but he can't sell it down the road, 100 miles down the road? Why do you think we have so many possibilities of production within a region, COVID or no COVID? But there's no easy movement of these products. A lot of it is the protection of the status quo. But if we accept that the giant step of a single market and economy is to come into being, then it will remove this chronic impediment of talking while knowing that we don't intend to interfere with the status quo. For example, we talked, my colleague and I from Barbados, we talked about this idea of having, within this single market and economy, a single company register, where once a company is registered anywhere in the CARICOM, it is deemed to be registered everywhere in the CARICOM. That is a simple, straightforward way of encouraging entrepreneurial recognition under law, but it will remove a lot of impediment. Simple as that is. And of course, if we are going to produce in significantly increased volumes, we immediately bring into play the question of transport. When we became independent as a federation, that fleeting existence that we had, the Canadian government gave us a gift. And that gift were 2 vessels, 2 ships, the Federal Maple and the Federal Palm. And they ran up and down the CARICOM, starting in Jamaica, down to Trinidad, back up. And at no time I can recall were the people of this region, the CARICOM region, ever better connected and better served. But at the end of the useful life of those ships, they were never replaced. Not because there was no reason to replace them or that the job had been done, but that we, the independents, had not done what had to be done to serve our people. We knew what had to be done. It has never been done. I gather that there are international supporters at this conference. And I will say here today, if you really want to help CARICOM to do what we are saying that we could do here for the good reasons advanced, one of the best things that you could do is to help the team of governments of the region to fund and have operating within the CARICOM region vessels of that nature so as to bring our people together to travel by sea in an affordable way. Because it has been done, it needs to be done. Goods and services by sea, after by rail, is always the cheapest. There's some specifics that we need to do. Specifics. Phytosanitary guards, we need, yes, to ensure that we don't spread disease unnecessarily among ourselves. But there are not to be barriers to the explosive increases that can come if we move out of the comfort zones that we exist now, but comfort zones for the few at the expense of the many. Ladies and gentlemen, there's so much that we can do, so much that we must do, because food security is not going to come at the time that you need it. The worst time to try to build a fire brigade is during the fire. We have to be cognizant of the conflagration of a fire that could engulf all of us and build it when there is good, fair weather. And that is what will serve us when there's an outbreak of fire. But for that to happen, there has to be a sustained business model. In my meeting with President Ali on Tuesday afternoon, we spoke at length about the need for the business model. What is the business model that we are going to use to bring about this expansion in food supply that will cause us to have a food supply that will survive fair winds and foul, and that will bring us the benefits of that increased production. Because increased production, without proper transportation, proper storage, and of course, agro-processing to ensure that the word glut doesn't become part of the vocabulary, requires a proper business model. And that is why today, representing Trinidad and Tobago, I could say that Trinidad and Tobago is in a position to develop a business model with the potential in Guyana and the potential in CARICOM to have us use energy, use expertise, use our universities to put us in a position to do what has to be done. Nobody is going to come to do it for us. As we said at the beginning of the pandemic, nobody is going to come to our assistance. We have to do it ourselves. And we saw it when Barbados couldn't buy half a dozen ventilators. We couldn't buy a vaccine. Those who had them kept them to themselves. Nobody is going to give us food when food is in short supply. So if we don't put arrangements in place to ensure that whatever the weather, there is food for our people, then who can we blame? We have to do it now, so that when the next time it happens, we will be in a better position, not a worse position. We have to argue effectively and convincingly at the WTO against the current arrangements that work against us. We might be small, but we are not insignificant. We must let our voices be heard. We must let our interests be served. We are aware of what we have to do. It is because we are aware of what we have to do why today, in the office of the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, you have an advisor, an agricultural advisor, who is a geneticist. Expertise that tells us other people are growing grain and planting things. It doesn't mean that we have to grow the same variety of grain in this region or on these soils. But it is possible to understand the genetics and to get varieties that are suitable for our environment. And that is where our universities come in. The University of Trinidad and Tobago, that is technologically biased. The University of Guyana, the University of the West Indies. Our research now has to be with a fierce urgency of identifying for the producers the varieties that we can produce on scale so that we can supply ourselves with the inputs for animal feed, with the inputs for human oil, consumption of human oils. And therefore, we want to see fields of soy growing within the CARICOM, Belize and Guyana where the acreage is available. We want to see corn being harvested, grown in the areas where they can be grown, and of course find themselves in as raw materials being processed for our own food supply. And of course, as we do that, we keep our eyes on other people's needs because we can supply some of their needs as well. It is only a fog in our vision and an absence of our own commitment that can hold us back from doing what we can do and what we must do. And this initiative is probably not the first step, but a giant step in trying to get us to come to the point of identifying business models that we must implement with the support of all those who back us. Make the investments, do what has to be done, and utilize the resources that God has blessed us with within the CARICOM. The least we can do for our people is to do the most that we can do under the circumstances. And that is why Trinidad and Tobago provides full support and hold out the promise of full participation in every effort that is geared towards this very vexing subject of can we or will we feed ourselves. But of course, our people have been so conditioned. Just at the time when you go past the market, not enough breadfruit being consumed, not enough cassava being consumed, not enough dasheen and sweet potato fries being consumed, but they're harassing the government about not enough foreign exchange to buy imported white potato. So yeah, we have to make the dietary changes to fit our ability to feed ourselves, otherwise we are just vassals of other people's problems, masquerading as the wronged and the entitled. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an exciting period. Our young people, some of them here with us today are at school. 2 or 3 years from today, they'll be out in the workplace. They would be required to use the technology that they're being trained in now and the experiences that they're seeing now and the failures that we have had to ensure that their generation does not end up in the same situation, being at the mercy of those on the outside who will not come to our aid in a time of urgency. We have to change the model. We have to change it. But you know, the most aggressive conversations in CARICOM is about movement of people. Movement of people. Last 2 weeks ago, we took to our parliament a piece of legislation to complete this whole question of the handful of skills that we are allowed to move within the region. And what did we experience? We experienced voices within our parliament openly objecting and indicating that this is taking jobs from local people. We have to move away from that to a total commitment to being who we are and doing what has to be done. Otherwise, we'll have more conferences like this in different years other than 2022. And we keep asking ourselves, why not? Today, I would like this conference to place us at a fork in the road. But we take the decision to make the turn in the direction where we commit to an improved production system to give us food sustainability in all conditions, anticipated and unanticipated. I want to thank President Ali and his team and the people of Guyana for the very warm welcome that you have extended to me on behalf of the people of Guyana to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and to let you know that the closest relative you have in the CARICOM is Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister Rowley. Prime Minister himself is an avid gardener, growing cabbage and cauliflower at his official residence in St. Anne's. And our young people are growing cauliflower and broccoli and carrots, the Shade House Project, others in the Berbice and Linden regions, grapes and kiwis and strawberry. And our leaders today have been talking about the importance of youths, and day 3 will focus on youths and gender, the CARICOM Youth in Agriculture Dialogue. We hope our young people can participate as you talk about generating wealth, climate-smart agriculture, innovations in agriculture, and how together we can work to surmount the challenges that we face as a region. We're coming down to the end of our program today. We are now going to listen to remarks on investments in aviation. We'll hear remarks from the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism, Investments and Aviation of Bahamas, Agriculture Insurance, and our penultimate head of government is coming to us now. He is the Deputy Prime Minister. Honourable Isaac Chester Cooper is our next speaker.
Good afternoon. Let me firstly acknowledge that, I'm sitting between you and lunch. And secondly, that I am the junior on the platform today. And I hope that the time that I will use will be a reflection of that acknowledgement relative to my colleagues today. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring greetings from the Prime Minister, the Honourable Philip Davis, and of course I recognize the Minister of Agriculture who is here with me. And it is indeed a pleasure to be here in beautiful Guyana to receive such warm hospitality and to participate in this critical forum. Your Excellency, President Ali, thank you. Over the past few years, the Bahamas has experienced events that have brought our priorities into focus. In September 2019, Hurricane Dorian, a deadly Category 5 storm, tore through 2 of the main population centers of our archipelago that were also 2 agricultural centers, Abaco and Grand Bahama. Viable farming and livestock operations were wiped out, making it harder for local populations to feed themselves, causing significant losses in revenues in that sector and increasing an already disproportionate food bill. Lucrative fishing operations were also destroyed, meaning some families were set back a generation in their trade. From Dorian, the need for climate resilience in our islands, from housing to infrastructure to agriculture to food security, was brought to the forefront of what we seek to achieve. Like every other CARICOM country, we were particularly hit hard by the pandemic, and the effects linger. What is different for the Bahamas is that less than 1% of our GDP comes from agriculture. And therefore, we learned that food security must become a priority to ease our dependence on major industrial trade partners and to stem the flow of foreign currency off our shores. In my country, we have not made the gains in local food production that we would wish to realize as quickly as we would like. And with inflation and lingering supply chain issues, we find we are paying more to feed ourselves and our visitors. This was not the case just a generation or two ago, but now we import 90% of our food at a cost of over $1 billion every year. From these figures, it is clear that there is good money in food production. We buy $650 million of food from Florida, mainly as a result of our proximity, but I acknowledge there is a logistical challenge, and today I throw out a challenge to my colleagues at CARICOM that we must develop a strategic plan to target these logistical, transport, and connectivity issues. This will be good for trade, but it'll also be good for the connectivity of our Caribbean family. But as we face an aging farming population with over 80% over the age of 65, our opportunity is to attract and engage another generation of Bahamians who are passionate about feeding ourselves and themselves. I listened, and these problems are seemingly not unique to the Bahamas, but we are open to learning how we can follow the path of our Caribbean sisters and brothers who are successful in attracting young business persons to the business of agriculture. And where we are strong, we extend offers of assistance in the areas we are able to. We are committed to avail ourselves of any new and innovative ideas that are being shared during this gathering this week. We seek to join our efforts with yours, and we have not a moment to lose. For example, we explored the concept of coconut farming just yesterday in our delegation. In the Bahamas, coconut grows in abundance year-round, but still we import significant amount of coconut products. I note that some of our colleagues, including Guyana, has had great success in supporting coconut farmers, and we seek to become viable players in the global and regional coconut farming industry. We have also taken note of the strides made in poultry in Guyana and in Jamaica and in other of our sister territories. And as I indicated, we are here to learn the latest in agricultural technology and to hear how the Bahamas can also advance. We recently had a change of government in our country. We were very carefully studying what occurred throughout the pandemic and the deficiencies that presented themselves. We are an administration open to new ideas, new technologies, new investors, new opportunities, and I tell you today that we are open for business. In the past 7 months, we've approved more than $2 billion in new investment projects, mainly in tourism, renewable energy, and fintech. We see some modest investment in agribusiness, but there is significant opportunity yet in this space. We are moving in the direction of forward-looking greenhouse technologies and climate-smart agriculture with the built-in advantage of being sustainable and carbon negative. Our Minister for Agriculture has confirmed that notwithstanding where we are now, we will achieve our 25 by 2025 with laser and aggressive focus on greens and poultry. We are establishing programs to educate our farmers on the latest technologies and making professionals with the appropriate expertise available to these farmers in order to fill any production gaps that exist. Food safety and food nutrition are most important imperatives, and we want to maintain the highest food standard criteria through our recently empowered Bahamas Agriculture and Food Safety Authority. We are encouraging partnerships with Bahamians and regional farmers in order to grow the agricultural sectors. And one such investment is a $300 million investment called Agri-Haven in Grand Bahama Island. We have recently embarked on this innovative partnership with various stakeholders to install climate-smart food production facilities powered by clean energy on the island of Grand Bahama. This facility will empower Bahamian communities towards social, educational, and economic development. In partnership with such world-renowned research and industry partners, we are well on the way in achieving the vision of CARICOM's 25% by 2025, and this is our mandate. With support from our government, it is envisaged that projects like Agri-Haven I just mentioned will become one of the leading wholesale food production facilities in the Caribbean, servicing local, regional, and export needs for highly nutritious, pesticide-free, fresh produce, whilst connecting existing farming networks to a digital platform that will connect them to a broader consumer market. Ladies and gentlemen, as we speak, we are streamlining and fine-tuning our investment regime and protocols. We currently offer an attractive array of concessions in agriculture and other spaces. We are refocusing, creating linkages with our robust tourism industry, harnessing our farm-to-table product. So yes, we are here to listen. We are eager to learn from your expertise and offer our own. And from where we stand, the future of the agriculture sector is certainly hopeful. And I am confident that in this endeavor, where there is the will to source and implement sustainable solution to food security, no one will be left behind. And so, on behalf of Prime Minister Philip Davis and the people of the Bahamas, I express our gratitude and our appreciation. And Mr. President, I wish you and the people of Guyana a happy independence. And I invite all here present to attend our celebrations for our 50th anniversary in the Bahamas next year. It'll be a great Caribbean family reunion, and it'll be good for Bahamas tourism. May God bless the Caribbean. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism, Investments and Aviation of Bahamas, Honourable Isaac Chester Cooper. Ladies and gentlemen, our final head of government of CARICOM will give remarks now on regional agricultural integration. Please welcome Premier of Montserrat, Honourable Joseph Farrell.
Madam Chair, permit me to greet President Ali and Mrs. Ali and other members of your cabinet. Let me say, comrades, good day. Especially our young people who are with us. We're truly happy that you are with us today, as we realize that whatever we do in this decade, it is you who will continue beyond. Prior to 70 years ago, the introduction of adult suffrage and the fall of the plutocracy system, investment in agriculture by external forces reduced significantly. Of course, as a region, we moved on. Some of us became independent and republics. And we invested in education, in manufacturing, in technology. But many of us failed to invest in the agricultural sector. Indeed, we have been taught as a nation, as a people, that anything that is foreign is good. And so we enjoy importing foods from other places outside the region. We spend our limited resources that we could use for healthcare systems and other social safety nets to import food, rather than developing our own sector. To be honest with you, when I heard the discussion began on reducing our food import bill 25% by 2025, I was skeptical. As a Caribbean man, I have heard it time and time again, and we have failed. But I am convinced, having seen the energy, the enthusiasm with which your president embarked on this mission, I am convinced that it can come to fruition. Comrades, if ever we think that we need to secure food for the region, is now. Having experienced what happened to us during this pandemic, when we were unable to purchase basic PPEs to protect our peoples, it was withheld from us. I want to ask the question, what if something happens and the region is not able to produce food? Our people will die. And that is why we must all rally around this vision and put it into practice so that at least we begin to produce food for the nations of the region. It is absolutely critical that we do that. It's embarrassing that 75% of the poultry product I import in my country comes from outside of the region. It is absolutely embarrassing that 85% of the food we eat in Montserrat comes from outside of the region. Why? We spend our monies to extra-regional sources and businesses, and those monies we can use to develop our own sector and to advance the well-being of our peoples. The government of Montserrat is supportive in working with CARICOM to achieve Vision 25 by 2025. Based on this focus, the Ministry of Agriculture in Montserrat has identified a number of priority areas which, with support, we are able not only to produce, but also to export. Why should I be importing onions from North America when my colleagues in the region have lands enough to produce it? I understand that there are some limitations to what we can do, but the biggest factor, the biggest concern we have is not that food is not available in some of our neighbors, neighboring countries. It is getting the food to where it is needed most. And that brings me to the point of connectivity. For over 25 years, the region has been speaking to movement of food from one country to the other. And to this day, we have not succeeded. So then, we now need investment in shipping so that we can move those products from Guyana in the south to Jamaica in the north, from Dominica in the south to Montserrat and Antigua. This is what we need at this point in time. Let us put our money where our mouth is and invest in shipping. And if there is some investor here today or during this week, we call on you to invest in at least 2 ships, one going north, one going south, so that we can move our products from one in Asia, from one country to the next. That is what we need. But when we speak to food security, I also tag on food, nutrition security. So it's food and nutrition security, because any food is not any food. The region has one of the highest numbers of NCDs. How can we tackle that? We must be able to produce our high-value crops, not necessarily market outside of the region, but for use within the region. And so we must begin also to protect the health of our peoples. After 25 years, Montserrat ventured again to producing white potatoes. And we have produced a very successful crop this year. Yes, we are a small population, but we can produce sufficient to export as well. We have produced onions, we produce cabbages, but there is no need for all of us to produce everything. We must begin to specialize. If Belize is producing oranges, I don't need to produce oranges. We need to specialize and seriously produce and get those produced out of our countries to the countries which need them most. And so, irrigation or water is in fact a problem for us in the region. How can we maximize the use of water by using technology to give the crop just enough water that they need, rather than wasting the water on the land? This is where the young people come into play. Use your initiative, use the technology, and help us to maximize the use of the resources that we have to grow our crops. Comrades, these are serious times. We must begin to feed ourselves. We cannot depend on outside source. So countries, my countrymen, my colleagues in the region, let's stop talking and put our monies where our mouth is. Let's begin to invest. I know we don't have sufficient to meet all the needs that we have in our countries. And that is why this week is so important for all of us. Those investors who are here, we trust and hope that you will see the need to invest in the agricultural sector. We have some ideas that we want to share with you later. And even though we are small, and even though we know that you are in this for profit, there are some ventures which has with it a humanitarian side. You may not get the kind of return you want on your investment, but from a humanitarian standpoint, you need to invest in small island states. We are in this together. And I believe that we will make it. And as I said before, I am now convinced that even for once, CARICOM is going to come out with something good. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Premier Farrell. We've come to the end of the formal presentations, and it's my pleasure now to invite the Chairman of the Special Ministerial Task Force on Food Production and Food Security in CARICOM, Guyana's Minister of Agriculture, the Honourable Zulfikar Mustafa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Dr. Mohamed Irfaan Ali, heads of delegation, other heads of government, cabinet colleague, distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen. Today is a very historic day for us, and it's my privilege to make these brief remarks as we are about to conclude the opening ceremony for this historic Agri-Investment Forum and Expo. We must all share a collective sense of pride and joy over its manifestation following months of hard work. Its realization today and over the next 3 days follow the establishment of a special ministerial task force as agreed by CARICOM leaders and their agreement that an Agri-Investment Forum and Expo would be an appropriate platform to address the issue of investment in the regional agricultural sector. Integral to the process was President Ali's detailed action plan, as presented at the 33rd Intersessional Conference of the Heads of Government of the Caribbean Community for commercializing the agri-food sector, and at the same time attaining the vision of reducing the food import bill by 25% by 2025. I believe I speak for all of you when I say that from the various addresses today, the positive tone for the forum have been set and the interest and optimism further heightened. To the heads of government and delegation, in spite of your present schedule, you found time to participate in this inaugural forum, and your presence here today is testimony to your unwavering commitment to help realize that vision and its redounding positive impact for all its people. Our individual and collective potential are not in dispute, as we heard from many leaders, and our commitment fully demonstrated here today. This forum therefore creates that springboard and motivation to achieve the true intent of this initiative. Allow me therefore to extend the appreciation of the government and the people of Guyana and that of the region and beyond for your participation and commitment shown. Allow me to extend our appreciation to those delegates and participants from beyond the region. Your participation has further underlined the global importance of agriculture and food security. Given some current global challenges and trends, that importance has become even more paramount. With evolving technology in aiding improvement in efficiency in almost every aspect of agriculture, this forum helps to facilitate the promotion, engagement, and informed dialogue among key stakeholders along the agri-food value chain of policymakers, development partners, foreign and local private investors, farmers, distributors, and how investment could be encouraged and the 25% by 2025 program can be accelerated. Therefore, its realization is of major significance, and appreciation must be extended to all those who work tirelessly beyond the call to make it possible. President Ali, the CARICOM heads, the organizing committee, our local and international partners, sponsors, investors and potential investors, exhibitors, the media, and all those who contributed must be commended. As we head to the working sessions and Expo, fruitful discussions are envisaged, while our individual and collective potential will be on display through products and services. While we must feel a tremendous sense of pride in what we produce, we must be cognizant of the greater heights that can be scaled through sustained commitment and innovation. There lies the inspiration, if at all any is needed. Together we represent and carry the aspiration and expectations of our brothers and sisters here in Guyana and across the region, Over the next 3 days, ideas and possible solutions will be discussed and partnership will be built. Let us maximize this wonderful opportunity and lay the firm foundation for an exciting future for agriculture to realize the goal set for 2025 and for the much needed food security. Once again, appreciation to all of you, and best wishes for much success during the forum and expo. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister Mustafa. We've come to the end of the formal program. I'd like to ask you to bear with me while I deliver some critical announcements. The first is that we are going to take an official photograph quickly before the delegates, the heads of government, leave the stage. And so we were asking the official photographers to come and do that quickly. Then I'd like to ask all of our invitees to remain seated to allow the heads and the delegations to leave first. A note to delegations, the buses to take you to the Arthur Chung Convention Center will line up outside. The buses will operate on a first-come, first-served basis. For this particular movement, there is no designated bus. Just get into the first bus so we can move everyone quickly to the Arthur Chung Conference Center. When we get to the Arthur Chung Conference Center, there's been a slight change in the program because of the time. We will move directly to lunch. So all delegates were asked to go directly to the lunch area. And when lunch is over, we will have then the ribbon cutting ceremony to open the expo, the tour of the expo, and the launch of the Stabroek Online Marketplace. And then after that is the first business session will commence. I can't give specific times now because we have to move the delegates to the center and then have lunch. So those are the announcements. Thank you very much. Please remain seated. We take the photograph and then we get the heads and their delegations out. Thank you very much. Yeah, no need to clap. That's okay.
Our 8 heads of government as they make their way off stage. It's been quite an opening ceremony, Chris, with many things for us to take away, even as we get ready for the next aspect of today's proceedings, which will be happening at the Arthur Chung Conference Center.
A number of very powerful presentations during this morning's opening session, and with most of, well, all of the leaders here expressing their confidence and support in the President's initiative, his vision of 25 by 2025. We've had some commitments by some of those leaders that they will be certainly working assiduously to making things happen. Prime Minister of Trinidad, the Honourable Keith Rowley, in his presentation said that the region collectively knows what it has to do. And this is a conversation that we've been having for a number of years, but now what we need is the will to move things forward. And now it has never been more critical for this to happen now. As a region, if we do not realize this vision of 25 by 2025, then we could be facing the full impact of all those international realities that abound today.
His big question, second big question was, are we prepared to do it? And as we get our preparations on the way with this very Agri-Investment Forum and Expo, we are looking forward to achieving our goals by 2025. Some questions that persons may always ask themselves as they pay attention to different aspects of our country and the agriculture sector. Why are we importing certain things that can be grown or produced right here? Those questions were raised by the Prime Minister of Barbados, Honourable Mia Mottley, and she's saying we can do it all. We do have the potential to do it all right here in the region and to become stronger together as we look at eradicating those challenges, well, forming solutions for those challenges. We just saw the departure of His Excellency, our President, Dr. Mohamed Irfaan Ali, alongside the First Lady, Mrs. Arya Ali. Now we're seeing the Honourable Mia Motley make her departure as well, followed by basically the other heads of states, the other heads of government that were on stage here at the opening ceremony for the
And making
Agri-Investment
presentations.
Expo.
All right. So one of the challenges thrown out by the Belizean Prime Minister, it was Gaston Brown who challenged us all to engage in practices for sustainable agriculture. And there's also a challenge for the region as a whole to look towards producing our own fertilizer as Guyana moves towards being an oil and gas entity. The Honourable Vice President.
And a number of heads of government would have made mention of the JAGDIO initiative, which came in for a great commendation. There were even suggestions to relook at it to make those little tweaks and adjustments we need in this current era.
It is the JAGDIO initiative that has been tweaked and been represented, and it is guiding the discussion and the conversation going forward. And again, a lot of the things contained, the initiatives contained in that document will be considered during the next few days, the conversations that we'll be having at the convention center.
The traffic will get a bit on a peak or busy on the intersections of Mandela Avenue and Homestretch Avenue as persons look to head out to the Artichon Conference Center. We've got a number of members of the diplomatic corps, members of the business community, business representatives and entities from our overseas participants of the Expo. And as they make their way there, Chris and I will be handing over to Lyndon Davidson and team, who will continue to await the arrivals there, as well as take you through the ribbon cutting and tour of the exhibition. NCN will also be providing live coverage of the various proceedings there, the roundtable discussion, updates on the discussions, and information from the participants, the booths. Hundreds of participants are there waiting to share information on how we can achieve this goal of reducing our import bill by 25% by 2025.
It's certainly been a pleasure being here with you, walking us through this historic event. And we certainly look forward to keeping you abreast of the events and conversations as they occur over the next 2 days.
And don't forget, the Expo gets on the way shortly and will continue tomorrow as well as Saturday. We'll be providing you with those updates as well. For now, it's a lot of meeting and greeting. Persons are still getting used to seeing their colleagues, friends, partners without masks. They're still getting used to seeing them without masks and mixing and mingling in such a free environment where there isn't so much of a big worry about the big C, COVID-19.
All right, so we'll hand you over to David.
Lyndon Davidson and our broadcast team at the Artichon Conference Center as we continue to provide you with coverage of the inaugural, the historic Agri-Investment Forum and Expo under the theme Investing in Vision 25 by 2025. Lyndon, it's over to you.
Right, so continuing with our coverage of the opening of the Expo here at the Arthur Chung Conference Center. I want to thank Nadia and Chris for their updates there at the NCC earlier, and with lots that was said just this morning. As you can see in my background, we're waiting for the ribbon cutting ceremony. That's going to be happening very shortly, and that will commence the opening, official opening of the Expo in itself. There's so much here to see at the Artichon Convention Center with what is happening behind me. And just in case you have an opportunity, you're watching us at home, you wanted to come down here to the ACCC, you can definitely do that, given the mere fact that we're just about minutes away before the actual cutting of the ribbon is done here to officially open the Expo to persons who are watching us at home. Remember, the Expo is being held under the theme Investing in Vision 25 by 2025, and that in itself is very, very significant. We would have definitely seen and heard about the amount of work that would have gone into the hosting of this conference and expo, given the mere fact that the Ministry of Agriculture And CARICOM and government, of course, has been working tirelessly to ensure that systems are in place to have this done. The Ministry of Agriculture, like I said, has been very, very integral in that process. One of the things I must mention to you is the fact that this entire conference and expo is important given the mere fact that as a region, our food import bill is very, very high or significant. So $6 billion we spend on regional US dollars, that is on regional food, and increased investment is needed in agriculture. One of the things I'm witnessing just in front of me is the arrival of His Excellency, the President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Dr. Mohamed Irfaan Ali. He's just making his way into the compound of the Arthur Chung Convention Center. Remember, just before Dr. Ali would have delivered his feature address there at the National Cultural Center as part of the opening ceremony for the Expo and Investment Forum, which will commence here today. And like I mentioned, key to that whole engagement is the mere fact that as a region, as CARICOM, we're really looking to put systems in place to tackle the food import bill, which we've amassed over the years, a whopping $6 billion we spent on food, and looking to invest in agriculture to reduce that by 25% by 2025. The forum is therefore geared towards the promotion and engagement of informed dialogue among key stakeholders, and there are lots of them that will be here at the Arthur Chung Convention Center, taking part in different forums, different panel discussions, basically trying to look for ways and means in which as a region we can be able to find solutions to the food shortages, the food problems that we have, particularly with here in the Caribbean. Remember, we're basically looking to achieve food security. Is one of the things in Guyana is very, very integral as it relates to that. And the minister would have alluded to the fact that we in Guyana here, we are very blessed with an abundance of land and fresh water. And those are the two key ingredients when it comes to agriculture. And I'm sure companies and businesses that will gather here will be looking for areas that they can invest to ensure that we are food secure. Remember, it's a 3-day event. It commences today. It runs until the 21st. So definitely you have time to come down here to the Arthur Chung Convention Center to be a part of that. What you can expect here at the Arthur Chung Convention Center is the fact that we have over 100 exhibitors that will be displaying their products and their services right here at the Arthur Chung Convention Center. We've got a number of them from the Caribbean. We've got a number of them from the US as well. Notably, I must mention, we've got companies from Jamaica, we've got companies from Trinidad and Tobago, we've got companies from Barbados, we've got companies from Suriname, we've got companies as far away as Ghana as well that will be represented here at the Expo. We've got some 62 local agro processors that are going to be